Hey Zach, how are you, bud?
Hey, what's up, man?
Not so much. Welcome to Type 51 Mike. Um, it sounds like two girls, one cup. I know, but every week
Yes.
we break down my buddy's Type 5 on stage, and I gotta say, your Type 5 was like you were on fire that night at Cinematique. That
That
was
was
like
that was a good night, man. We did a recording for a bunch of Daytona comics who were trying to put together some stuff for different purposes, and you've been a huge help with that too. Getting the photos and video, and yeah, man, it was a good night for everybody. That was one of those nights where it all kind of comes together, like magical. So
heck
yeah.
yeah, dude. I put the link in the description box if you guys want to check it out. And I put all of Zach's social media so that way you can click on it and subscribe and follow him on all those social medias too. But let's break down your type five from that night. So your very first was were a set of impressions. The first one was all white people right now. What was the story behind that?
So I have no problem telling you, explaining this. I'll just do it. I was literally like, I was in New York when I was living up there, and I had to come back or I was coming back for the Orlando Indie Comedy Fest, and had a show at the Improv, show at the Nog, and a couple other shows in between that. And I was coming back, and I was like, damn, I'm gonna go do this festival, and I don't really have, and I'm gonna go do these rooms with people that I know, and I don't really have any new jokes. And I was like riding the subway to the plane, thinking like, I gotta write something. And I just thought to myself, Indie Comedy Fest, what do indie comics do? And I just was like, oh, ironic impressions. So I just started just rambling off shit to myself, you know, on the ride to the airport, just saying as much just random shit as possible. And I came up with like 10 different ones, and I picked my top three, and I just went with those. So that was one of them. Um,
Indeed.
yeah,
And the second one was Gilbert Godfrey goes in a library, or Gilbert Godfrey in a library, which I
yeah.
picked up his documentary recently, so I have yet to watch it, but I'm going to watch it. But what was the
Oh
story
man,
behind that one?
it is. I'll tell you what, it's a weird documentary to hear him talking normal, because he's like Bobcat Goldthwait. He's got that crazy character voice that they rarely let anybody hear their real voice. And the first time that somebody really played his voice, Howard Stern had leaked a voice for some reason, like because they were cool. But then Howard Stern like leaked a voicemail that Gilbert had left him, and it was like one of the first times anybody had like a recording of his voice without him being like, screaming. But yeah, that's just back to I came up with it because of just ironic impressions. I was like, all right, somebody's in a library who's, you're just thinking of the juxtaposition, the irony, like ironic impressions, which is like a staple of doing indie comedy. You almost never go to an indie comedy show where somebody doesn't say like, this is my impression of, and then, which started as a way of kind of mocking the hack comics, by because a lot of hack comics have impressions where it's like they can do a voice really well, but the joke's kind of so, but the audience is just so blown away by the voice that they're like super into it. But yeah, so I mean, it's to the point now where ironic impressions are kind of hacky. It's just indie hack instead of regular hack. However, yeah, it was just a fun little, like someone you've never heard talk quietly in a library. And of course, if you watch the clip, the joke is just me not speaking because you're in a library. So, yeah, that's
Indeed,
that.
good stuff. And this is like my favorite one of the bunch because it reminded me of my Pornhub joke with the HD and uh, but it's your self-conscious Amish porn star joke. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that one, dude. Literally no idea. That was just me like rattling off different. That was me rattling off different ideas all at once, and then like the self-conscious porn star thing, and then like an Amish thing, like trying to think of like what could be ironic uh for someone who's Amish to be doing, and like I mean, it was literally just when I say it was me sitting on a subway just trying to figure out what kind of pandering, because I'm usually having to pander to like middle age and up white people in Florida who don't appreciate like more style humor or whatever. Or I don't even know to call myself that, but I mean more alternative to what they expect. You know, they like a lot of kind of A plus B equals C type jokes, and that's not really me. But like,
I think you're frozen. Well, since Zach is frozen at the moment, I wanted to remind you that his information is scrolling on the bottom there.
I guess I'll keep talking. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with that. Anyway, yeah. So it was just me pandering to indie comics. Honestly, it was me just trying to think like what would they like to see, and then I tried to see if I could write something that wasn't like my usual thing, and then I wound up liking it. So
Sweet.
yeah.
And so I watched Jerry Seinfeld's, comedians in cars getting coffee or whatever the name is. It's so long, but I love this show. Like some of the episodes I read. But your next joke was Jerry Seinfeld needs a new bit. What was the story behind that one?
Man, I watched all of comedians in cars getting coffee, and I think anything that you watch, even shit that you like, if you watch it nonstop, because like Netflix has given us and streaming has given us the opportunity to watch things nonstop, which really wasn't how content was meant to be taken in. So
Mm-hmm.
like, so when you kind of watch or read too much of something, you almost end up like it becomes almost a parody of itself and why you liked it. Obviously Jerry Seinfeld is a genius and like revolutionized comedy, but when you watch a shitload of Jerry Seinfeld, you start to realize that it's kind of the same thing over and over again. He's just the best at that same thing that he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and he was one of the guys to really kind of lead that into a newer era. But anyway, yeah. So for me, it was just like watching so much Jerry Seinfeld content and then going like, oh, this is just him. Like, how many times can one person say, "What's the deal with something?" and then you're still interested? You know what I mean?
Indeed, most definitely. I'm wearing
Uh,
my.
apparently,
Oh,
a lot of people for many many years.
that happens a
Do
lot.
what?
That happens a lot for sure. And the next set of jokes
Oh yeah.
reminds me of the shirt that I'm wearing at the moment, which is my Planet Fitness shirt. and,
Oh yeah.
and I've only been there like 4 times. I'm not gonna lie. Like I shouldn't have signed that annual contract. I just should have went month to month. But your next set of jokes was like 4 of them, which was a workout culture. And what was the story behind what's your excuse and your workout culture opening?
Yeah. So the initial thing was the thing that I do talk about in a bit, which is it's a combination of like having friends who are a part of that. I got friends that are former military, and they work out a lot, and to them, I kind of understand that. It's like part of their routine now. It's like part of who they are. But and I respect that. Like taking care of yourself and like because I can't do it. I don't have the motivation for it. But so I respect people that can. But when people, there's a weird thing of like this internet culture of workout culture that's popped up where like people's entire like Instagrams and Snapchats and like their Facebook, like their entire like how we promote comedy and shows and everything, they promote themselves and it's literally just them working out. Which, for us at the end of the day, it's like that's how you get gigs is like showing that you're doing stuff and that you're good at what you do or whatever. So it's weird to me. It's like there's no unless you're going to get like a sponsorship maybe, like I'm sure there's people that have that. Like there's a couple different people in Orlando who like own gyms, so to them, they have a lot of content they put out, but it behooves it, they have a gym. But if you don't have a gym and you don't have a product and you just have like hours of content you put out every day of you working out, I don't know, it's weird to me. It's like what do you get out of it besides just like at the end of the day you're like, man, I really showed everyone that I did that. Like I guess maybe that's it, and I just don't understand that because it's not my thing. But I don't know.
Indeed. It's like people that take selfies while like on their workbench. I'm like, do you guys really need to take a selfie on the workbench? Like, some people
Yeah, I
just have
mean,
to. Ugh, I don't
I
know.
don't, I don't, I don't mind. I don't care what people do. Honestly, as long as you're not hurting other people, I don't really give a shit. But
There,
when you become almost religious about working out, then it's like it's weird. That like what's your excuse thing is a it's a thing that is in the workout culture thing where they almost like want to shame people into. I Here's the thing: it makes sense if you have a personal trainer and that personal trainer is like telling you like, hey, like you're making excuses, you need to do better. But it's weird to just like put it out there to everyone. It's like, what's your excuse? Like most people aren't on your page. Most people are just trying to like go to work and watch a show so they don't think about killing themselves. Like like leave these people the fuck alone with your dumb, you know, lifestyle that no one cares.
yeah,
Like like everybody's got their own thing. Like you don't see like nerd culture being like, what's your excuse for not knowing all the characters in the MCU? You know what I mean? Like they leave you the fuck alone and they go to the movies. Like leave them alone. I don't know.
exactly. Most definitely. And then the next one was homeless fitness. What was the story behind the homeless fitness?
Yeah, so that was a real thing. There was a I say it's Men's Health, but I don't actually remember the name of the magazine or anything. But when I was living in New York, there was a magazine I saw that said the "What's your excuse" thing, and then it had the homeless guy on the front, and he was like, and I've seen the dude like out there, because in New York there's like just a gauntlet of there in the subways is like levels, like physical levels and metaphorical levels to how people ask you for money. On the subway, it's like the more like Daytona style where they're like begging you for change,
Mm,
like the people who walk around the city and they're like, I have no talent, but I'm poor, please help. And then you get out of the subterranean, you get up to the street level, and then people are like, they'll show you that like, hey, I have a thing, will you give me money for that? But then there's the people who do both, like the break dancers, which one of them kicked some dirt into my churro one time, and I did not appreciate that. I stopped giving them money. But I appreciate breakdancing, but not within, you know, a 4 feet of me. It's too much, in my opinion.
indeed.
But yeah, so the homeless guy was working out and with a thing that says, tip me or whatever the fuck, and people were doing it, which is, I don't really begrudge him for doing it. It's like, do whatever you can to get money, but it's weird to me that anybody would give him money for it. But I don't know.
Most definitely. And so, what's the story behind I'd rather sack than lift?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that guy, and I was just like, I was thinking about how he was doing that for money, but if you're someone that works out, you'd work out anyway. It's like comedy in that way, like it's cool that people pay us to do it, but realistically, it's something we enjoy that we would probably do anyway. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like at the Nog, I mean, we like a lot of people. You don't make money when you start out. You do it because you enjoy it, and then and then someone who wants to give you money for it usually approaches you, or people out there who suck, and then they are so insistent that they go find someone to pay them money. You know, however respect the hustle, whatever you want to do. But yeah, so it was just a thing where I was like, I've done a lot of things for money, like working out in the sun and stuff like that, but that doesn't feel like working out. There's an end result. Like if I mow a lawn, I see that the lawn's done, and that's an immediate gratification thing. Whereas like working out, it's not immediate gratification. It's months and months, of not being able to see a result. And then if you're doing it correctly and taking care of it, then eventually you have that result. So I'm just not that kind of person. I want immediate results. You know what I mean? So for me, and also I'm lazy as fuck. Like I'll go work for money, but the idea of working out for money, and I hate working out. People are like, oh, you get used to it. And I mean, there was a period of time where I worked out all the fucking time. Like I worked out a lot, and I saw very little change. And I wasn't in like bad shape. I just wanted to be in more shape. And I worked out, and everybody's like, yeah, it gets you get used to it, and then it's not really like a problem anymore. Not true. Not for me anyway. I hated it. Every run I ever went on, I'd get home and I'd be like, that was fucking terrible. Just the worst. And so, so the joke is to explain how much I hate working out. I'd rather suck dicks than have to work out for money. Like I'd resort to all kinds of things to not have to do push-ups. But
Indeed. And so for the second half of the interview, I'd like to interview the questions that I remembered last time you were too tired for my different show. So now that you're refreshed and everything,
that was a rough day.
It was a rough day for sure. Yeah. I'd like to ask you questions from our very first interview. You were like one of my very first interviews in Florida about your comedy career. So with that being said, what inspired you to form stand-up comedy?
I mean, the honest answer is probably just loving attention, I think a lot of people who get into acting and stand-up and performance, there obviously is some talent behind most of the people that do it, especially like once you're at the level where people start to pay you. But really it comes from a place of wanting to be seen or heard, you know what I mean? Like I was an only child, so I developed an imagination or was able to use it more than maybe somebody who I was just alone a lot, to where, my imagination kept me busy. And then the other part of that, of course, is, wanting attention all the time, and then getting it is another thing. Like some people have the opposite thing, where they have a bunch of siblings, so they want attention as an adult, possibly because they didn't get it as a kid. Whereas like I got plenty of attention, but then I also got validated, which is like a drug. Getting validated, you always want it over and over, you know what I mean? So like, because I remember making my parents' friends laugh at, like, when they would have their friends over, I'd be like 10 years old making 40-year-olds laugh, and then I felt like, oh, like this feels good, getting that reaction. Everybody does that thing where they're like, it's just the best feeling in the world, making others laugh, and like, yeah, but it's mostly like a good feeling for you. Like, I mean, I could be wrong. It could be me being an asshole, but I don't think people get that much. It's people can go get laughs elsewhere, like, you know what I mean? Like just because you did it doesn't make that special. Like it's more for you if you're really honest about it, in my humble opinion. So that's where it comes from,
Sweet. And what was it feeling like when you first performed stand-up?
What was it like when I first performed? Yeah, so with the dog, we had all just kind of started a show on our own, just to fuck around and do it. It wasn't like the typical thing where you start out and you go find an open mic and you try it and you don't know anybody and you're terrified and you bomb and you come back anyway because there's something wrong with you, and then hopefully you get good at it. Like that, it was just us hanging out with our friends. There's like 40 or 50 of our friends would just show up and pack the Nog once a month, and then we would just bullshit, But I mean, we wrote, like a lot of us wrote. I wrote more in my first year than I think I've ever actually physically written. I mean, I learned my process a little better, to where like I know that I write better writing cliff notes down, thinking about it a lot in my head, and maybe writing down taglines, but never really writing the whole thing out anymore. I haven't done that for years, but like, and then the rest of the writing comes with doing the mics, getting up at open mics and practicing those moments and then making them seamless,
Indeed. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
My favorite specials are still, Dave Chappelle Killing Him Softly is probably one of the best written specials ever produced. That was after Half Baked, which was his sort of like blowout thing as far as like a comedic actor or whatever, because he had done Def Jam and some of the other some other comedy tapings and stuff, but like for HBO and stuff like that. But his first real hour special, that was this huge special he did in Washington, and like that was just an amazing special. If you go back and watch it now, and it's so poignant. I mean, he's talking about police brutality, he's talking about systematic racism, he was talking about it before these were all, like social media hot button issue type stuff. And it's the kind of stuff where the people I know that I watched that special with back in the day, or like people that I talked to about it, they all laugh then and they all know it's true, but they'll pull that all lives matter bullshit now. But they laughed at him back then in 2000 when that came out because they know it's true. All that stuff he said about, being white and a cop coming up and being black, but it's all, he does it in a way that it's so funny that number one, you wouldn't even think to argue with it because it's so funny, and number two, it's so true. You can like you feel it. You know what I mean? Like even if you've never experienced some kind of prejudice towards you by the points he's making, you're like, oh yeah, because he doesn't do it in a preachy way at all. It's all punchline. Whereas his last special, he's tired. You can see him. He's like, I mean, his last special, he left I think 3 jokes in, and he cut out the other half hour of jokes that happened, and just left in the parts where he's like commenting on the George Floyd thing and everything. I mean, it's an incredible special in terms of just a philosophical, point of view. But yeah, Killing Him Softly from 2000, George Carlin's last couple of specials where he was at the top of his game with writing, and it kind of sifted out all the. He had a lot of stuff where it was very. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. Where it was very, he knew he could just get away with certain things. Like he knew who he was at that point, stand up wise. He's probably one of the most recognized stand up comedians at the time. Him and Richard Pryor. They were like the Biggie and Tupac of comedy. You like when you bring up, who the greatest rappers of all time, you don't even have to mention them. They're here, and then everybody else is in the discussion. So yeah, Carlin was always a huge. Chris Rock, bigger, blacker. I mean, Chris Rock, like, I would say probably was one of the biggest. Chris Rock and Dave Attell are probably my biggest influences. I mean, I like the ridiculousness of Dave Attell and the spot on, like, I mean, that's how I learned to write jokes, just listening to them, so looking up to those guys.
Most definitely. Excellent choices. And some of them have been on TV and film, and I want to know what your favorite sitcom sketch shows and comedy films are.
Sitcoms. It's hard to like any sitcoms anymore. I mean, sitcoms are, at least with a laugh track. I think the last one that was any good was probably How I Met Your Mother. I mean, it's got some pretty terrible moments in it writing wise, but like that's because like they leave like the writers' rooms at CBS, I'm sure, filled a bunch of old dudes that have been writing shows since Dick Van Dyke, and then you got the new people coming in, and you can kind of feel it too with the jokes. Like they'll say, like you'll hear someone on there be like honka honka, like no one writes that anymore. You know what I mean? But you see the stuff where you can tell like a younger person wrote the jokes in. Yeah, I mean, I don't really. Sitcoms are tough to pin down. I never really. There was stuff I always enjoyed, you know what I mean, but nothing I ever really felt blown away by. I mean, obviously, like The Office and Parks and Rec have become more of the standard now for what people like for a comedy show. And then, of course, SNL back in the day, and then kind of fall in love with sketch again after that. Even in the past, like. People shit on SNL now, but I mean they've had good casts for. It's just not what people wanted. Like if you were in love with like the Will Ferrell era of SNL, then that's just what SNL is to you. Instead of being more open minded and seeing it as like a fluid thing, like it's always changing. Lately they've gotten a little too. I'm not gonna get into all that. I don't feel like it, but. But yeah, Kids in the Hall, Whitest Kids You Know was also really funny. I never really got to watch a lot of it, but it's super poignant stuff, but it's super funny. Yeah, I know I'm leaving stuff out, but I'd say that those for TV, those are some of the best. And like I said, Parks and Rec and The Office and stuff like that where they're being a little more. It's not that same in studio audience feel, 3 camera shoot type thing, where it feels a little more like you're there with those characters instead of like a stage play that's being filmed type feel, you know.
Indeed, in comedy films.
Comedy films, I mean, there's so many different kinds because there's like in film you're able to have a little more creativity and kind of do more interesting stuff because TV is very limited. I mean, more obviously now you can do a little more with TV with Netflix and the different streaming availability and HBO and all that stuff. But like, um, I don't know, with films. I mean, there's the obvious stuff like the early 2000s stuff that was great, like Anchorman and the stuff, the quotable stuff, Anchorman, Dodgeball, Wedding Crashers, all that stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that falls through the cracks with that. You know, that becomes what's popular pop culture wise. But I mean, there's stuff, super dark comedy stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think people feel like comedy and film has kind of gone away, and it has to some extent. But I think Apatow, his production company, has really carried the banner. Kevin Smith was kind of the dude for a while. But I mean, if you watch the last Kevin Smith movie, I mean, it's just, you know, it's all nostalgia at this point. You know, not that it's not great, but it's, you know, like I watched it with my girlfriend, and if you've never seen, it's Jane Silent Bob Reloaded or whatever.
Uh,
I forget the exact title, but yeah, like if you've never seen, I mean, it's literally just a fan film at that point. Like it's all fan service, you know. If you've never seen a Kevin Smith film, like she hadn't, you know, like the whole film is just references. So it's like you can still follow the story, but like none of the jokes are really going to hit because they're like references to other things, you know. So
Indeed. I got to check that one out. It's pretty good. Good
yeah.
stuff. Let's see here. If you can go on tour with, which you already have, but if you can go on tour with any comedians locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
You mean like that I haven't, as
Yep.
far as the local? Okay. I don't want to sound like a dude. You mean like the international comedians? No. Um, I'm trying to think who I really, I just don't like so many of you. I'm kidding. No, I would like to go. Like me and Casey still haven't done anything like that because Casey was kind of dipping his toe back in before COVID hit, but he's been focusing on the band a little more. But I've always wanted me and Casey to be able to go on tour together. I mean, we're like best friends, but we don't get to spend a whole lot of time together. But I mean, when Casey first started, I mean, we were just on the road all the time. So I always thought that would be fun, just me and Casey, just like taking turns featuring and headlining, you know, back and forth. Because we have very different styles, but it's that same kind of feel, I feel like. Um, so yeah, that would probably be my local answer as far as God, I know Minas is gonna watch this and he's just gonna be so upset. He'll be like, why do you want to take me on tour? Ah, it's just like it's like having a massive little brother that has breakdowns when you don't give him full attention. Love you though, buddy. Like, see, because he'll take that as I don't want to take him on tour.
Right.
It's not that I wouldn't want to go on tour with him. You asked me to pick one, I picked one, but he wants it to be him. Fine, you know what? We'll make him feel better. It's you, bud. No. For those of you who don't know Minas, he's a very funny comedian and massive pain in my ass. Who I love very much. I would, and as far as like, I mean, I honestly, I really, I would like to tour with for somebody famous or like a bigger comic. I would like to tour with um, like Rory Scovel. That would be a lot of fun. He seems like a fucking maniac, a chill person. Because that's what I need. I want to be able to like go out on do a show and be insane, and then afterward not have to go be insane. People like want the rock star lifestyle with comedy sometimes or whatever. I'm like, I want to take a nap, so leave me alone. Like, But yeah,
Indeed, his Netflix special when he shot it at the Relapse Theater was pretty awesome. So
oh
good
dude,
stuff.
so good. Him wearing that leather jacket and just
Yeah,
being a fucking asshole. Oh, I love it. Anyway,
indeed. And
yeah.
if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, top 5 dead or alive, which ones like to get roasted by?
Um, yeah. I mean, I hate to be cliche about it, but I mean the masters of it. Patrice O'Neill. I'm gonna go all dead on this one.
Okay,
The best roasting comics are mostly dead. Patrice O'Neill. You know what? I'll throw a live one in there. Gilbert Gottfried. He'd be great. Um, Greg Giraldo. Rest in peace. See who else. Um, I think Daniel Tosh could probably come up with some. Like, he's not one of my favorite comics, but I feel like he writes some pretty mean jokes, so that would be good. I'd say Jesselneck, but they're the same thing. He's just one's quieter. I don't know. Uh, and then Lisa Lampanelli. She'd be pretty vicious. So, and I'm
indeed.
white, so she couldn't just like throw racial slurs at me to get me. So,
Nice callback on the Gilbert Gottfried, by the way.
thank you. I'm a
You
master of.
indeed. Let's see. Where do you see your comedy career in the next 5 years?
Um, you know, when I was doing real laughs the last time, they were acting like I had retired or something. I've been pretty clear about I'm not retired. I'm like waiting for comedy to be a viable thing again. Like, I'm not saying I'm not shitting on anybody doing it right now. Like, but if you're doing socially distanced safe shows, like, good for you. That's great. People need entertainment and comedians need validation and money. So I mean, go get it. But I would rather take this time to reflect on things and write new material for one. I know a lot of you are going out there doing the same bullshit. Fucking world's falling apart. We're on the brink of like a civil war. And you're like, oh, here's the same jokes from 3 years ago. Fuck off. Uh, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Here's the thing. Most people just want that stuff, so it's fine. Do what you want, just do it safely, but it's just not for me right now. So I mean, if COVID tapers down anytime soon, I'll be back at it. I plan on going back to it, but yeah, I mean, I would like to be back to touring and making a living on it. Honestly, I don't really care outside of that. I would like to eventually have like a situation where like me and Sarah have like an RV or something and then just drive around the country and me doing doing comedy, and then like, I don't know, we just sell bullshit that we have in the meantime for extra cash. That's all I want to do. I just want to live a junkyard life with my girlfriend. Can everybody just let me do that?
Indeed. And which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting?
Yeah, I would like to get a little. I would like to get a little more into sketch, and I used to act back in the day, and I would like to get back into that at some point. Update my resume and get some contacts. I don't know.
Indeed.
You can't
Eh,
have glasses in a lot of shoots because they reflect off what you can see while we're doing this.
mm,
I haven't had a contact. I haven't had a contact lens prescription since I first got them. I tried one pair on and I was like, this is the most painful, awful thing I've ever done. And I took them out and never put them in again. So somebody was just like, oh, you got to try different kinds. I was like, okay, great. So,
indeed.
yeah.
And let's see here. What is your favorite joke a comic has ever written?
Jesus, Sareth. Come on, man. Okay. Casey Crawford's bit about what are you going to be prejudiced about?
Uh-huh.
That's pretty great. Not to. I feel like this is a lot of. Maybe I'm just missing Casey, and that's why I'm giving so much props to him. But no, that is a fantastic bit. I think everybody. I mean, people that barely know him. Also, when we were both at the same weight and we're both around the same height, so sometimes people confuse me with him, and they've come up and said, "I love that one bit you do," and I'm like, "Oh, cool, man. Which bit?" And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like going through the ones that people usually like. And then they're like, "Oh, the one about the thing." And I'm like, "Well, that's not me, and fuck you." So yeah, that's fun.
The
It's fun to
storytelling,
it's fun. It's good to have friends that are better than you. It keeps you working harder or something.
the storytelling of that joke is just amazing. Like he has you by the the horns like the whole
Yeah.
way through. It's just fantastic. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
Um. Hmm. I would like for them to take everything literally and not figuratively. I'm kidding, obviously. It's the opposite. For those of you who don't know, it's the biggest problem with comedy. People hear jokes and then take them serious. No, I just want people to hopefully appreciate the sense of humor, and if they don't, fuck them.
Indeed,
So yeah.
I agree. And then all the social media stuff is on the bottom there scrolling, and which is like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And if you would like to see Zach's Type 5 that he sent me, it's in the description box below. And you can follow him on all the social medias that way as well. And
Yes, I have no shows coming up, so follow my social media because I'm gonna be selling shirts. We just
indeed,
finished our last laugh shirts. Let me see if I can get that on screen. Just
yeah.
finished those for the last laugh show, which Sareth has graciously taken all the photos of over the years for the most part. So thank you for that, buddy.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
I, I
But
was
yeah, go ahead.
I was surprised with all those photo albums I had. It's like over 100 and something. Like, good
Yeah, dude.
lord.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's what happens when you just drive around the state of Florida for 4 years taking pictures of everybody.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I've never been to Southern Florida. I just
Near been to
focused
South
on
Florida? Yeah, dude.
no.
There's a lot of good comics down there, a lot of great rooms. So hopefully we'll see what's left. There's shout out to all my South Florida buddies. A lot of them are still doing it. One of them offered me a gig the other day. I just can't. I'm working a lot right now, and trying to keep the t-shirt stuff going. So I can't really, especially like far away gigs. Even if I was doing it right now, it would be tough. So, but they're still trucking, man. So.
Indeed, and that's why I'm so glad that they came up all the way to the Nog and stuff to do like the shows there, and I got to interview most of the South Florida comics, and which
Yeah.
saved me a couple of hours of driving, so that was great. So,
Yeah, it's good when they come to us.
absolutely,
That'll be the
and
legacy of the Nog beside that and cocaine, but that's fine.
indeed. Any other final words you'd like to give out to the viewers at home?
Yeah, follow me, buy a shirt. No, yeah, just don't be a racist piece of shit, and see what else. I mean, hopefully, if you're watching this, you're not. I don't know why you would be. If you're friends with Sareth, you probably should not be racist. It's Cambodian. They've had a rough one of it. Yeah, that's it. Don't be a racist piece of shit, and wear a mask when you're around other people, just in case.
Indeed, I can't wait to pick up my shirt and do more comedy with you if I'm still here. I'm not saying that I'm gonna die of the coronavirus, but
You mean moving, right?
yeah, moving for sure.
Okay.
But I'll definitely I can't wait to see you. I'm gonna have you in Colorado for the fest anyways, and so I'll be
Oh,
back
cool.
to bring you. I'll be flying back to bring you a hoodie and a shirt from the show from the
Thanks,
fest.
man.
Yeah, I
Well, we
can't.
we got the shirt giveaway. Well, not giveaway. They're all purchased, but the shirt handout will be at the Nog on Monday. I believe we're going to do that. So,
Oh,
what date is that, baby? You know what day Monday? The date is Monday. What is it? Anyway, yeah, Monday. I think it's the first. I don't know. Anyway, this coming Monday, if you're watching this live, you figured it out. This coming Monday, will be so you can stop in, grab a drink, support the bar, get yourself a shirt. I'm still doing shirt orders, but they're not the immediately already ready ones. But so yeah, I did want to plug that, which is weird to plug something that's kind of already completed. But you can come to the Nog, buy a drink, get a shirt.
Indeed. What time should we be there?
What is it? 31st? Yeah, Monday the 31st of August.
Awesome.
I'll probably be there a little bit early, but I think they're going to open up around 9:30 or 10 because
Okay,
it's the Nog. And I think let's see, Monday. I think there'll probably be some kind of food there. I'm assuming. So we'll see.
for sure. I'll try to
Yeah.
squeeze in my my interview early that night, so that way I can head down to the Nog
Cool.
and do that stuff. So
Well, if not, I'll come up to you. If not, okay. So don't worry.
okay, sounds good, brother man. All right, dude. Thank you for taking time out for your second and third interview with me. I love you, dude, and I can't wait to see you again and all that good stuff.
Love you, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, pal. I'll see you next time. Later, bud.
See you.
Awesome. So for Type 5 1 Mike, we'll see you next week and have a good night, everyone.